There we go. Hello. Yeah, I started this way too soon. This is still something that's super new to me. So I, being me, started it like 10 minutes before I needed to, then realized, oh, actually, no, it's properly live. So yeah, thanks for sitting there patiently waiting for me. I hope you're having a good morning, afternoon, wherever you are. And thanks for joining me. So a bit about these sessions. I think I mentioned it in the last one, and I've mentioned it in various other spots, but it would be good for me to have more videos of me working, but I'm really terrible at, like setting up recording and like editing and scripting and all that kind of thing. So I figured that the best way for me to make these kinds of videos is to live stream, just because then I don't have the pressure of getting it perfect. Like if I fumble, I'm just gonna keep moving because I have to. And then I also have, hopefully, some kind of audience to keep the pressure on me to keep working. So yeah, today should be quite a nice chilled session. I've left the chat open, so if you have any questions while I'm going through, feel free to put them in there and I'll do my best to answer on the fly. So today, as you can probably tell from the title, earlier in the week, I posted asking for people to send me just little little Notion pages, little projects that I can work on these kinds of streams. And Thais very kindly sent me her UX second brain and asked if I'd help to organize it. So that's what I'm going to be working through. I don't know if I'll take the whole hour, depending on how much there is to get through, any questions that come in. But yeah, I'm hoping to just have a nice, calm, relaxed, hopefully lunchtime sort of feeling with this, just to show you a bit about how I work with Notion. Some of the things that I go through in this might be obvious to you, some of them might be new, but I'm hoping that you learn something as we go through. I think that's all I wanted to say to start with, so I guess I can jump in. Give me a moment. This is, like I said, this is very new to me, so still understanding how to make everything work. So scroll back up to the top. You should all be able to see this. So this is Thais' Notion page that she sent me. She is studying UX, various facets within UX. It looks like research, UI, and there's a lot of resources here, but she's started to collate them all within Notion. At the moment, she's just put, and this is me, I've had a brief look at this myself yesterday just to get familiar with what's in here, but I've not delved too deeply into anything. I just want to kind of get my organic reactions to stuff. So yeah, you can see here that she's got all of her courses, links to the courses and whether she's doing them or still needs to do them. And the one she's finished, she's also put in here boot camps, certifications to do, and books. So it seems like this is just a massive list of everything that can help her with learning UX. And then down here as well, I noticed class notes. So I think these are things that she has learned as she's done all the other courses. So you've got courses and class notes. So yeah, segmented into, as I said, all the different facets of UX. There's a lot in research. Wow. Okay. So, all the different types of UX research, like all the different types of testing you can do, I assume, where you do them. Synthesis and findings, deliverables. Okay, so yeah, once you've done your research, then these are the different kinds of things you can produce. Some of them have more notes in. So within Notion, if you've got a particular row item here, then you can add notes within that topic. It's quite, I don't know if you'd call it nestable. Wow, yeah, there's a lot in here. It's very diligent note taking, so much. Okay, more about design theory. Okay, I'll just hide that for now. Okay, so it seems like, okay, and then there's a separate table down here just for this just for the MBA. Okay, if you don't mind me looking in these just to get a bit more of an understanding. So this is always the most interesting part about starting a new tidying project like this, is just learning what's already there, how someone's already thinking about things. Okay, I'm assuming these are course notes. I'm sorry, I can't speak this language. So I'll just assume that these are notes from this unit, I guess. We'll come back to this. But yeah, as I was saying, like, when you're looking to audit a space that someone else has made that already exists, one of the hardest things is just reading it and understanding it. So that you can see that that's me trying to do this now on camera is quite difficult. So a summary of, like, this page has a bunch of different databases in it that each relate to a particular discipline within UX, and then this table is the various things that she wants to work on. So you've got the things and then the notes. So to me, that's a clear relationship of, while you're studying in a particular course, then you want to take notes specifically on that. I'll show you how those two relate together later. So let's start with something easy. I say easy, something that will make this a bit more digestible. And you can see she's already made one here herself. So in Notion, you have a database full of data, and the default view is this table. It's quite a standard format of having each row in this table is a page. So if I expand one of them, each row in this table has its own page associated with it, but then you can also assign these properties to maybe give it a tag, edit dates, like, you'll see those as I go through. The default view is table, but then you can also have different views, like she's put here a board. If any of you are familiar with things like Kanban, so it's where it's, trying to come up with definitions off the top of my head's quite tricky. So it's where you've got, it's a process for getting work done by breaking down your work into smaller tasks and then passing them along this column structure. So it's probably better if I show you practically. So here, say that she wants to complete this course and it's in the to-do column. When she starts working on it, she can drag it over into the doing column, and then when it's done, she can drag it over into the finished column. And you can see she's already got this set up here very well. It's also handy as well in Notion to be able to bring links and other properties within a table item to the front, so you don't have to, like, if I wanted to access this link, normally I'd have to click to open the table item, then click the link, but here she's brought the link up front, which is very good, so she can just very quickly click on that and go to where she needs to go. Let's see, how would I improve this? So the first thing I would do on this table is, let's see, I wonder if it would be worth, just because there's 83 things here, let's see if we can do this. So load limit 50 pages, that's clearly not working. 10. No, okay. Oh, no, that's not 10, am I? Oh, 10 in each column, okay, that still helps. So you see what I did there for this view? If you click on the triple dots here, and go into load limit, you can limit the amount of pages that it loads in any one go. This is helpful for if you have, just like, as you can see here, a large amount of information. You want to narrow it down a bit just so that you can focus on the things that are more important to you. But let's say that it's brought the wrong things into this to-do column. So there are currently 80 in here and Notion has just chosen 10 to show, but how's it chosen these 10? I think it bases it off of the, no, it doesn't seem to, does it? No, okay. So I can't tell you how Notion has chosen these. I'm sure there is a formula for it. But if you wanted to order these in a particular order, let's go to sort. Let's say you wanted to bring up the ones that, or you wanted to prioritize in this list to-do items that were mini courses rather than boot camps or what were the other ones she had in here? Books. So you can sort by type. Oh gosh. By ascending. Okay, so when you sort by type ascending, it will bring up the ones that in your type property, when you've got the list of types that you can assign, it will bring up the ones that are at the top of that list first. I can show you what I mean by that. So on this type property, the options that you have here, they're in a particular order, and this order matters. So it should be that when I rearrange these, have I done that wrong? Should be. Okay, I have to. Yeah, okay, there you go. It requires a refresh, but when you reorder the, if I bring this back up, when you reorder the options that are in here, it means that when you sort by type ascending here, it will bring up the ones that are at the top of this list first. So say if you did want to prioritize certifications and books, and now it's working straight away. Okay, Notion's magic. So when you rearrange this to bring up certifications first, when you sort by type ascending on the board itself, it will match this list order. So that's quite handy. I'll put it back to how it was before. Oh gosh, I can't remember now. That will do. Let's see, as well I spotted just as I was going through there, where status is to do, or status is doing, or status is finished. Okay, so that's just showing everything. Okay, so you don't need to do this. Maybe this is just legacy from when she'd set it up in a different way. But yeah, if you've got statuses that are filtering everything, you don't need any of them. So just for my for my tidiness, I'm going to remove these. Oh, no status. Okay, so what are these no status ones here? I can show you a different way to filter these out actually. So if you go to the board properties and into group, you can toggle them all off here. So if you only want to show things that you have assigned a status to, you don't need to use filters. You can go into, I'll show you how, triple options, triple dot menu up here, group, and then hide the no status ones. Another fun thing I like to do, that's just me, is color columns. Don't know why I mentioned that. Just it's something I don't see people doing that often, but I think it helps to make it clearer which columns are which. I don't know, that's just me. Another thing you can do here with to-do, doing, and finished. So Notion has a property type called status, which is quite handy. Instead of using select, you can select status, which has to do, doing, and done. But of course, when you're working on something, there are multiple statuses for doing. So for example, if you're, I don't know, if you're doing a course, you might be at a place where you're studying, you might be at a place where you're revising for an exam, you might be at a place where you're waiting for your exam results to come back. Like, there are multiple ways you can be doing something. There are also multiple ways you can be waiting for something to happen. So it could be that it's just an idea, or that you've, I don't know, you are waiting to, like, you've gotten onto the cohort but you've not started it yet. So here I would recommend switching to status instead. And then to doing it. Why has it done that? Okay. Odd. So this hopefully won't have messed with the ones she's already done. Okay. So if I go into the status edit property, then I can, just for the sake of the example, is put in the extra statuses that I mentioned before. So to do is the default. So let's change this to, what's the word I'm looking for? Idea. So the things you haven't committed to doing, but you've seen them and you've gone, oh, that's quite good. then you could have applied to course, or maybe just applied. I also find it's helpful to set all of these to the same color, just so that at a glance you can say, okay, yellow are ones that I haven't done yet, red are the ones I'm working on in some way, and then the blues are done. So here, if I show you, and to groups. So here, say for example, that I'd just, and this is good practice anyway, I think, if it's something that you're interested in, whenever you see something that puts a little light bulb in your head, to make a note of it, so that if you ever need to find it again, you know that it's in Notion. But say that you had gone back to this data camp option and you're like, okay, I actually want to do that one, I want to commit, and it has some sort of application process. Rather than just leaving it in idea, you can move it over to applied just by dragging it over. It's just having multiple columns in Notion means that you can keep track of things a little bit more at a finer level. Also, please, like, I know that I'm kind of just not waffling, but I haven't really got a set agenda for this. I have like a couple of things I want to cover. So if you have any questions, or if there's anything you think I could cover in more detail, please just stop me. I have the chat up. But for now I will put this back, because you might not have applied. Another view that I think is handy if you've got something like this where you're doing like 100 things at once, and I'll create a new view to show you this, is just a what I'm working on now view, which I think that if you have a dashboard, which we'll get into in a bit, having just a quick snapshot of where you are now is super helpful. So I will click this plus to create a new view. And for this, I would recommend gallery, I think. Yeah, this is personal preference. Gallery, I think, is quite nice to have all the larger cards. That's just me. I would also hide database title or card preview. We don't need this yet. Card size medium, open pages inside. Okay, so this is interesting actually to cover. So when you click on these cards in Notion, there are 3 different ways that they can open. The first is in a center peak, which kind of looks like this. It just fills the page. It's good for like quickly diving into stuff. The second is in side peek, which is the one I use a lot nowadays, and it's the one that we were using before. So you click on it and it pops out to the side. I think this is really helpful for just quickly scanning through a bunch of different gallery options. So if you just wanted to jump between these, it's quite easy to just refer and then come back. And then the third view, which I don't really use, but I can see where it would be useful, is full page. So to just click on it and it will take you to that as its own standalone page. I imagine this would be helpful if most of the time you were using those cards as navigation rather than reference. But yeah, I don't use that one too much. The gallery, I'm going to set it to side peek for now. That's just my preference. That's the thing as well with Notion, is that there is no correct way to do stuff. A lot of the times when I come and work on a particular page or a particular workspace, there are things that people have already put in place that I wouldn't necessarily choose to do it that way. So when I come in, I will set it to my own preference just because it fits my brain. But then it's something that can easily be changed later. So yeah, I think it's fine that when you're building a dashboard in Notion to just try things out, come to a mutual agreement, and if you're working with other people, to pick something that works for all of you. Open pages and side peek, that's fine. Properties, so again, coming back to that, showing the link up front is very helpful. State, no wait, I'll hide the status and I'll explain why in a second. Type you can show, yeah, that's fine. So I said that this is a view for showing everything that you're currently working on. So I call it currently working on. And I don't know, what icon do we want to pick for this? These are the things I tend to struggle with more than getting the things set up for. What am I currently working on? Let's just put house. Again, one of those things we can go and change later if we feel it's not working. And then here you can filter on status, and this is where the status property that I was explaining before, why it's helpful to use this, because you can select everything that is currently in progress, like no matter what stage it's at, whether it's, oh, and I can go back and change those in a second, whether it's that you are just doing some introduction sort of videos, whether you're revising for an exam, whether you're waiting for results, like you can just select all of those in one go rather than having to go through and toggle them all on. So just for my sanity as well, let's just go and change this one to waiting for results, and then also make this red. And then I'll leave that as doing, just because, yeah, if Thais is already like, she set them all to doing already, so I don't want to go in and make assumptions about what that means for her. So I'll just leave that as doing, and then in her own time she can come back, and if she wants to be more specific than doing, she can toggle them to any of these other categories. So I'll just add in like revising, video, watching video tutorials. It's been a while since I've done anything at this sort of studying level. Like, I tend to do more work than studying at this point, so yeah, obviously these might be a little bit inaccurate, but anyway. So back to this view that I was making before. So here then it would be helpful to show, what am I doing? Status. Obviously they're all set to doing because, as I mentioned before, I don't want to make assumptions about what she's currently doing with them. But you can see that at the moment she's working on 6 things. Okay. Another thing that would be helpful here actually is to, so even though you're working on stuff, you might be more focused on one, you might be jumping between 2 or 3 of them. So it's helpful to know which ones are the ones you've worked on the most recently. And there is a way to do that in Notion by adding a property of last edited time. There you go. And then you can change the title if you wish to, something like updated last update. Okay. So we'll be able to see when she last worked on, or when she last looked at each of these things that she's working on. So then in here, no, sort by last updated. Oh gosh, which way is it? Bear with me. For some reason, dates always really trip me up. Last updated. Okay, so it is the other way around. It's a good job I checked. Descending. That's better. So she'll be able to keep the ones that she's worked on the most recently at the forefront. Like at the top of the list. Yes. Okay. So I'm also just looking at the question that was posted earlier in the chat about covering the process of solving any problem with UX, to mention normal steps in Notion to organize. Sorry, let me pass that again. So I'm not entirely sure what that means. This is yeah, I guess if you, sorry, my fuzzy lunchtime brain. Okay, so by that I think you mean going back to here, for each of the steps that you take in UX. I wouldn't call them steps per se, I'd say like, I don't know, topics. Like, it's quite broad, the whole field of excuse me, of UX. So you've got obviously you've got research right the way down to component design, UI, and all that kind of thing. So everything that's in the middle there is covered here. So you can see that Thais has already organized her notes by those categories. And I'll tidy that in a second because this is quite a big, scary one for me. So I'll leave that for a second. The thing I want to cover now actually is the difference between, because I see people make this mistake with Notion sometimes, is the difference between having stuff that's actionable and having stuff that's easy to reference, like stuff that's easy to keep as a reference but that doesn't need as much maintaining, if that makes sense. So in Notion, when people start, when they build, let's say that you're wanting to build a task list, and I used to do this, the temptation is to really sink your time into making, and I can share examples of this if anybody's interested, to make big tables like this full of all the little tasks you have to do. But what I've found over time is that that can sometimes detract from just the day-to-day effort. So I think keeping track of stuff like this is good at this level, so as a whole course. But, and I'll show you now, if you're trying to create a space that you're going to be using every day, that you want to make changes to frequently, the less organization you do with it, the better. So, let's see. Let's move this down. So let's say that this is something that Thais wants to come to every day just to see, okay, what am I working on? What do I need to do today? It would be helpful to, let's see how to explain this. So the way that, I'm just trying to think about how I've set stuff up in my own dashboard. So the way to do this that I found works best is to have one section that is really easy for you to make changes to, and then another one that's really easy to keep organized and to dip into when you need it. So, oh, this is really hard to do, just improvise. So let's see, let's have like a, let's make it to do today. Watch video for, oh, actually this is a helpful thing. So let's say that let's pick a course. Let's say that she's working on real world project management. These titles are very long. Real world project management, and there is a video that she needs to watch. Let's say that she spotted that yesterday and she's like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. So she comes back into her dashboard and makes a note to do that. Let's be a bit more practical about this. So to do today, make a Notion dashboard. There we go. And then let's say that as she was working on building her Notion dashboard, she was like, oh, actually, tomorrow I need to watch that video for the course. So in the tomorrow list, she can make a very quick to-do of watch video for, and this is one of the things I love about Notion. She can just reference that task in context in her to-do list, so she doesn't have to navigate if she doesn't need to. So put in real project management. Obviously it would help if titles were a bit shorter. So that when she comes back to do this the next day, she can just say, oh, I have to watch the video for this course. What was the video? What was the course again? And then she can click it and it will take her to that task in the media table that we were looking at before. I think that being able to reference stuff in line like this is really powerful, because say you'd forgotten like which database it was stored in, or if you just needed to have it in context, it's really easy to just at and then reference one of the pages, because you can see there's just so many things to reference. But I use that quite a lot. Let's see. So on a dashboard, on the left, having things that she needs to do. So it's very easy to add new things. It's very easy to do the thing, then check it off. You don't have to worry about setting the status for a particular task or like assigning it to something. If you really wanted to get specific about, okay, I'm working on this task and I want to, I'm working on this project and I want to keep everything to do with it in that one space. And what you can do is instead you can have the tasks in here that you want to do. Watch video A, watch video B. So that at the start of the day, if you're like, okay, I'm going to be working on this task, you can click on it and see all the tasks, all the subtasks within it. That maybe is an idea for a future stream of how to, if you did want to get complicated with the tasks, to have nesting subtasks. So, but that's for more, I don't know, I guess that's for more complex project management, which I don't think is applicable if you're just someone who's trying to build an accountability, a space for learning accountability. I think here, if you're having a space that's to help with your learning, you should only be dipping into it just to keep track of where you are. You shouldn't be using it as a, you know, as a space for learning. It's more just to keep yourself accountable and to help you remember things. That's just my opinion. Another thing actually that I see people struggling with this a lot, and I think it's something that's very helpful, so I will cover it, is making columns. So in Notion, obviously the default view is to have one column. It's quite handy just to be able to keep typing and to have stuff populate one under the other. But if you're building dashboards, it can be handy to have multiple things on one horizontal row. So the way that I do this, and I've done this for ages, is to have your two blocks here, labeled A and B, to highlight both of them, and then turn into column. If I can never find it. I think it's because this list isn't alphabetical, but I can understand why that. Anyway, and then to select columns, and you can see now if I highlight all of this, you can see that A and B have been turned into their own little block that has two columns in it. You can do this with multiple blocks. So let's say you wanted to do it with 5. Again, you just select all of them, turn into columns, and again it's put it into 5 columns. You can also resize these by hovering over the column to the left or to the right of it, and it will bring up these little, I don't know what this cursor is called, but it's the one where you can drag it to resize. It's a little bit fiddly, but you've just practice basically. Practice and move stuff around yourself just to get a hang of how columns work. But yeah, super helpful. Another thing you can do with columns is, and it would be helpful actually if I colored these, let's see, just so you can see them. Sorry, I should have thought of that before. So them all to blue. So you can just drag them by, if you hover over a block, then to the menu to the left of it, there's this kind of 6 dots. I don't know what the official name for it is, but you click and drag and then hover to the edge of where you'd want it to go. So it will work on the left or on the right of these blocks. And you release and it will just put it in there, make a nice little column. You can do the same down here. You can also attach blocks to other existing columns. So if I wanted to put this block, I don't know why I'm pointing at my monitor, I'm sorry. You can put this block here underneath the block that we created before, like this. You just hover and again drag it to around the area you want to drop it, and there'll be this blue highlighting line, and release, and it will put it there. On mobile, if you're viewing this page on your phone, what it would do is it would just, in the same way that a responsive website would work, is it would just take the columns and put them on top of each other. So you'd get like A, B, B, C, D, E. like that. So that's how they would appear on mobile, but on desktop you can have a bit more of a complicated layout. There was something else I wanted to cover with columns. I can't remember. I'm sure it'll come up at some point. So back to the dashboard. So say if I wanted to put this as its own column over here, for some reason you can't just drag databases. I'm not sure why. So the way around that is to do the column technique that we had before. Turn into, and I'm sure there's a keyboard shortcut for this, but I can't think of it on the fly. So now you have your two columns A and B, and you can drag the whole, the whole database using the 3 dots method, 6 dots method, sorry, and drag it as you would do with any other block into that column. Really not sure why you have to do this way, but it works. Then you can drag your to-do lists down here. And then I like to remove the stuff above. So you can see that even just putting stuff in columns, it makes it feel a lot more dashboardy. So when you come to this page, just like, say you had this at the start of your day, you just come to this page, you can see right away, okay, these are the to-do lists that I have to do, and this is quick links to all of the things that I'm currently working on. And as before, it's like when you click on the cards, they open right away. Actually, here would be a better space to show you. So say you were jumping between 2 or 3 of these courses, and you you work on this one on Mondays and Wednesdays and this one on Tuesdays or whatever. So you don't want to be clogging up your general to-do list with tasks that are specifically for one of these. So if I were coming to work on this one today, then I could maintain a separate to-do list down here. Do this too. Say I'd already done this. I could jump back in and say, okay, now I have to do this. Then I would leave Notion and go and do that thing, then return when I'd done it and tick it. Remove those. Trying to think of what else I can cover in terms of... Okay, I've not got long, but I'm trying to think if there's a way to tidy this so that it's a bit more actionable. So basically at the moment, there's each of these task categories has its own board, which has its own database, which is fine, it's good. But if you wanted to be able to display all of these in one view for whatever reason, it's difficult to do it like this. So what I would be tempted to do, oh gosh, let's see. Let's do it as a new database just so I don't get distracted. Yeah, okay. So instead of having it broken down into each subject, what you can do is have it as its own database of notes and just collate everything in here. So instead of having, actually this is, let's see if I can put these side by side for reference. Okay. And I won't do all of this on camera just because it will take ages. I might just come back in here in my own time and move things around, but this is just so I can show you how I would start thinking about this. So as an example, for each of these topics, I'd be tempted to make a new tag here. And then if, Yeah, let's just leave them all different for now. So rather than having all of your notes scattered across different databases, bringing them into one means that you can at least normalize it all. So, this is difficult to try and do on the fly. Because I can see why you've put them into different tables, because it is handy to be able to tag. But, oh, that's the other thing I was going to show you. Okay, so say you have all of these different courses and books and things, and you want to be able to take notes on them, but then also keep all of your notes in one place. With this new notes database, what you can do is you can connect it to the, and I'll bring up the more familiar view. Yeah, you can connect these two databases using something called rollups. So the way the relations, I'm sorry. You can connect these two databases with a relation. So the way that works is, as a property in a table, you can link to other pages in a different table. So I'll show you how that works here. So say you'd gone to, what's that one from before? Say you'd worked on this agile leadership specialization. Let's just put in. And then you'd create a new property on this table and relation down here and relate it to media, which is the name of this. I keep pointing at the monitor, I'm sorry, really I could do with like some way of highlighting my points on the screen. But you'd relate it to this media database, which is this one here. And you'd say related course, I guess. Related to media, limit. So here, for example, it might be helpful to set a limit to 1, just to say, oh, I definitely took these notes in this course. But it's also fine to leave it at no limit. And this is interesting as well to say show a media. So it's a two-way relationship if I select this. So you can see here, notes will relate to a particular media item, and then media will relate back to notes. So you can say, okay, for this course, here are all the notes I've taken for it. I'll just put this notes. Actually, I should be consistent with naming. Related media. No, okay. This is the thing as well of like naming conventions, so it's quite difficult to keep it consistent sometimes when you want to say one thing, but then someone else might think of it as another. So I will just leave it as the original database title for now. Oh, goodness. Media type. Okay, so here, back to the table, I can say that, come on. Okay, so Notion has crashed on me, that's great. Very good. This is not what I wanted. So basically what I was gonna do was to link the Agile Leadership notes that I had taken back to the Agile Leadership course. Is that working again now? Maybe if I just close this one. Agile Leadership. Here we go. And link it back to the notes that I'd taken before. So then if I went to these notes, say, I don't know, say I'd gone to or like if this was a particular video or a particular lecture I went to and I was taking notes in this page, then I can link it back to the original course. So then if at any point I wanted to come back and cover something from this course that I had done, it would be easy to navigate in that way rather than having to go from the master page, then come down to class notes and like dig through here to, by topic, remember, okay, so I know it was on this course that I took the notes, but I can't remember exactly what the title was. I've not explained that very well, but being able to link the things that you've learned to the place that you've learned them, at least to me, that makes it a bit easier to find them if I'm looking for them again. What was the other thing I wanted to show? Because the point of these videos for me isn't necessarily to finish a build, even within an hour. Like, this is something that would take a lot of like tweaking and fixing. I'd probably want to come in and add some various graphics here. But it's for me to be able to show certain techniques that might help you organize your own systems or different ways of thinking to help you see that Notion's not just a database program or not just a word processing program, that you can over time build systems like this. But I can't remember the other thing I was going to cover. I've made notes and I keep looking at them, but it's very hard to do this on the fly. So I've covered referencing versus actionable. Let's try and think. Okay, one other thing I guess I can explain is the difference between, no, that's not very interesting to cover. Okay, while I'm thinking, I'm just gonna tidy. So the beauty about these databases within Notion is that this block is itself just database. It doesn't matter what form it's in. It's all the same data, just displayed in different ways. So one thing I can do now is to just delete these. All of the database items are still in there. You just won't be able to see them all in a table view if I remove these. But what I can do now is, so we've got a tab for things you're currently working on. What else would you want to ask yourself here? So you can say what to work on next. And then, I don't know, is there like light bulb? Yeah, there we go. What to work on next. So here, like before, we want to filter by things that maybe you just want to look at ideas. Yeah, just ideas here. So things that you at some point in the past have seen on the internet and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. You can use, what's the name of there are basically ways that you can bring things that you see into Notion. The easiest one for me is just to copy paste it, but there are various extensions you can use just to bring all of your ideas from online into Notion. It's kind of like a second brain, and then reference them later. So let's say that you had finished all of your currently working on, or they were all at a place where you couldn't do anything else on them, and you're like, okay, I want to do something else today. What can I work on next? So this view will be filtered by all the things that you just haven't started, haven't touched. They're just ideas. I will also remove the title because we don't need this here. What else would you want to filter this by? Let's also make it a bit simpler. Let's remove the last updated. I suppose it's helpful to have the link so you can go and check and see if it's something you actually want to do. You won't have any notes on them. Status will always be idea. Type might be helpful to keep. Yeah, let's keep type for now. What else would you want to see here? Or how would you want to sort them? Okay, another thing you could do if you were trying to decide what you wanted to work on next here is to group them. So if you group by type, then that means that if you were in a headspace where you just wanted to pick up a new book, or if you had not much time and you just wanted to read an article, or you know, whatever's available here, then what you could do is you could group it by those categories, which means that on properties you'd be able to hide type. Okay, so yeah, you'd come in here and you'd see like all the different things you could work on. Going back to how scaling it with how much time you have available versus what you'd want to work on. Let's also put in so as you're adding this into your list of ideas, what you could then do is you could rate it around how difficult you think it's going to be. So let's say that, let's call it effort, and change this to, so I want to have a plane taking off. Yeah, that'll do. So you can, when you're adding it to your database in the first place, you could rate it on a scale of, let's say 1 to 10, just to say, okay, this is how long it will take me, how much prep I'm gonna have to do. Obviously this would just be like an initial guess. These things change as you start working on them, right? So set as, oh, actually I should cover that before I dive in. So with Notion, if you have a number type, what you can do is you can display that as the number, or you can display it visually as like a button or as a ring. I'll show you what that looks like now. Let's go back to our original rating of 10. So let's say when I added this, I thought it would be difficulty, it's a book, so it would be a lot of effort to read this whole book. 8. So on the scale of 1 to 10, it's an 8. So this bar has filled up 80%. And then in the table view, what you can do is you can display that. It's not a good place to put it. Actually, one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this to ring, and I'm going to hide the number, just so that at a glance you can see how much effort it is. Let's also make this blue, just because. Why not? Then you can then sort by the effort it would take you descending. So it would put the higher ones, let's do ascending, so it would put the easier ones first. And then, no, sorry, it's just my butterfingers. Yep, so let's just give these arbitrarily like a 4 and a 9. So let's say I wanted a certification that was like kind of difficult, but not too much. Then I can come down to certifications and see, okay, so that I've previously expressed interest in 2 of them, and this one seems a lot harder than this one. So maybe I'll do this one first. I don't know. These are just like ideas of ways that you can, because one thing that quite annoys me about the current, and this is just a personal opinion, of like, it's really easy to hoover in information. Like there's so many articles, there's so much content, there's so many videos and courses. It's really easy to hoover them all in, but then if you don't sort them and look after them and organize them, then they just sit there and you don't work on them. So having a way of making it easier to make decisions on which things to do first is, I think it's super important. That's what a second brain's for. It's to help you organize the stuff that's already sat in your brain. I don't know. See, what else would you want to do here? I mean, this is just a minor point worth mentioning, but like, I think complaints I've seen before about Notion is that it's not, it looks quite visually plain. Like, it's hard to customize a Notion page for your particular style. And I think that, like, there are certain limitations to just basic Notion, but there's still quite a lot you can do. So, for example, these images are customizable. Then in the top right over here as well, you can select different fonts. I think we saw actually earlier in the notes that, yeah, this uses the, what's it called, monospace? Yeah, the mono font. It just escapes a little bit away from that default Notion look. Another thing you can do is you can import images. Either you can just take them from the internet, or you can create your own images. Notion also has Unsplash embedded in, so I don't know if you wanted to search for UX to see if you can get a post-it note one. No post-it notes? Oh, actually that's pretty good. Gosh. What are those? Are those pins? Are they magnets? Pins. Okay. So you can start really, if you wanted this to feel like a space that was for studying UX topics particularly, I don't know, it's quite fun to just include imagery of other people doing UX. I guess another thing, is this gonna let me, no it's not, okay. Sorry about that, delete view. Yeah, I can't think of too much else I want to cover. I think I've gone through most of the stuff I can, or most of the stuff I can do within the space of a few minutes. Like I said, working on things like this, it's, it's often a case of like sitting and thinking and tweaking, which is all fine, but doing it on camera isn't ideal. I'd rather show you more interesting things. Okay, another fun thing, I guess, is... okay, I can probably do this in a few minutes. Let's go. So I noticed on here that there's a book. But let's say that you wanted to create like an actual reading library. Let's see how quickly I can do this. Right, I should have thought of this before. Page, let's go books. Make a new database for books. Then book A, book B, book C. So with a book, you know what the endpoint is. You know how many pages it has. So let's go total pages. Let's say this book has 300. Actually, there's an easier way to do this, isn't there? Pages read. Bar. So here, when it says divide by, you would put in the number of pages in the book overall. So let's say the book is like, 324. No, wait, that wouldn't work. Okay, right, let's go back to the original plan. Pages read. This is a proper time trial. Total pages. And then don't show the bar, just show the number. 324. Pages read. And you make this a number. You can watch this at 0.5 speed if I'm going too quickly. I'm just conscious of time. And let's say that you'd read like 128 pages. Then what you can do is you can use a formula, progress. So then let's say, that's maths, property of pages read divided by the property of total pages. And that gives you a number. Let's try and, is there a formula for turning that into a percentage? This is so typical of me to think of something like 2 minutes before I need to stop. Let's just do 100 multiplied by, so that gives you the percentage progress through the book. Let's see, is there a way to flatten this? If we go over, we go over, that's fine. Round. Yeah, round, that'll do. So how do you use this? Round this. So that will give you, yeah, the rounded up value. But then this is a number. So when you're printing, it really is silly of me to dive into formulas at the 11th hour. But when you're working with formulas in Notion, basically you have, in the same way that you do in programming, you have different variable types. So you can have strings, which are just like text. You can have numbers, which are actual arithmetic. They're just numbers. I don't know how to explain this properly. And sometimes you will need to convert between the two. So say, for example, if pages read was a string type property, then you would need to convert it to a number before you started doing these mathematical operations on it. Yeah, okay, that's right. But then if you want to use a number in a string, which I'm about to do, then I think you need to convert it first. So what I'm going to do is, at the moment, this part of the formula is a number, but I want to add a little % symbol, and it won't let me do it because type mismatch. This is a number. So then I need to come back in and use in Notion, the way you convert from a number to a string is to just use format. So there you go, it gives you the, is that what I want to do? Okay, give me a second to finish my thought. So yeah, here it will generate the total percentage value of pages that you've read out of the total number of pages in the book. Let's just fill in a couple of others here. That one could be like, that's a big book. And then, why are they all so similar? Cool. So it's showing you for this particular book how far through it you are. I'm really running over, I'm sorry. Like, if you're watching this live, feel free to dip out if you need to. There's, like, the video replay will be up. This is just me mucking around with formulas, but I think it's helpful to cover this anyway. So I won't be too much longer, I promise. But then, okay, let's say that you wanted to have kind of like how you have here. You have what you're currently working on. You want to have a similar view for what you're reading. So we can do that by using a linked view of a database and bringing up that books one we had before. Using a new view and having gallery, because that's what we used up here. Hide the title. Going into the triple dot. I don't know why it keeps jumping around so much, I'm sorry. Going into the triple dots properties and bringing up that progress that we created before. And then you can also sort this by progress %. See, descending, so you can see the books that you have read more of being brought to the top. One more thing to show you is that for, excuse me, each book, what you can do is you can set, because it's not easy to tell just from the title, right, for a book. It's easier to be able to see the cover. So let's say for this book A, if you set the cover to be a picture of that book's cover, obviously Unsplash isn't going to give this to me. You'd have to find this on like Google Images and then copy the link for that image into here, or like download the picture or take a picture of the book on your phone or something. But for the sake of speed, I will just use a generic book cover. Let's do one for here as well. You know what? Let's just do this. And then on the gallery view here, you can set the card preview to be the page cover. So it will use the image that you'd set before as the cover for this card. Yeah, if the cover doesn't fit, you can just toggle on off fit image, but I think they all look okay. So, oh, this is so like me. On the dashboard now, you would have the list of all the things that you need to work on today. You can make quick notes of what you need to do tomorrow or like in the future. So you also had like future. This book. So you can see, like, once you have these structures nailed down, how easy it is to reference them just by typing at and being able to create like a, I don't know if there's a word for it, but a space. No, that's not what I'm looking for. You can create something that's easy to reference back in the future in context. Yeah, this was very hard to do, actually, trying to squeeze so much into the time, but then also not knowing what I was going to cover. Let's just do a quick recap of what I did cover though. So first we had just the table of all the different courses. We've now filtered them down into 2 views, into the stuff that you're working on at the moment in this organized snapshot view, so that it's easy to jump into the things that you were working on before, ideas for what to work on next, sorted by how difficult they are for you to, or how difficult you think they would be to start and to do, and then also categorized by what those things are, so that if you wanted to do a certification, it's easy to jump right in. We also started, and then I quickly realized how overwhelming it is, to look at the, and I might even jump back in and do this again at some point in the future, but for the, like, rather than having your class notes separated into a bunch of different tables, to be able to put them into one massive bumper file of all of your notes and link it out to the course that they're related to within each of these notes. There's more to explore here around like what you'd want to include, if you just want to type stuff or if you'd want to categorize it somehow, but that's like, I've really not got time to do that now. And then finally I had a flash of inspiration, and I just wanted to go through quickly how you could not just organize courses like this, but how you could have books or some thing where you know exactly what the start and end points are, and to be able to generate progress like this. Oh, one more thing. Oh my gosh, terrible at timekeeping. But say you wanted to not represent this as percentage, but if you wanted to use the bar that we had before, I think you can do that with formulas. Let's just test this. Progress bar. And then in formula, instead of formatting it and then adding on that percent at the end, if you keep it as it is, as a number, so the number of pages read divided by the total number of pages multiplied by 100 and then rounded to get the solid, easy to look at percentage, then yes, you can. You choose to show it as the bar divided by 100 because it's a percentage, and then not show the number. And that should make a bunch of progress bars. Let's see. Great, cool, yeah. So you've got the percentage and then also the bar itself. They should all match up. Then on this view, you can go to properties and show the progress bar. Excellent. So if you're someone who is better at recognizing numbers, you can use that. Or if you'd rather have a visual indicator, you can have that too. Oh gosh, okay, yeah, I got a bit off piste at the end there, but let's just see. Yeah, that's kind of how I would begin to tackle something like this. Yeah, obviously with Notion, it's very much like there's no one size fits all. And these are just things that I've learned over years of learning it. I hope that despite my absolute chaos, you've picked something up, you've taken something away from this. I will tidy this up and I will put it on YouTube later. So if there's something that I said that I covered too quickly, or that you want to just refresh, you can go back to it. Or if this is you watching this on YouTube back again, then yep. Yeah, next time I will plot up a more concrete agenda for this. I'm sorry if you came specifically for UX content and then this has turned into more of just like a architecture and Notion structuring kind of workshop. But yeah, hopefully even if you are a UX student, like you can kind of see some benefit into structuring your stuff like this. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up today. This is quite tiring. But yeah, I had fun. I hope you took something away from this. And yeah, I will be doing more of these in the future. So if you have something that's small that I can at least start chewing on quite, I can get through some decent stuff within the space of an hour, half an hour maybe, then yeah, I'd love to see it. If you have a project that's not much bigger than this, but if you have a project that's on this scale or larger and you just want someone, to take a look at it as a professional, then I can also do that for you. Just get in touch. There's my page on LinkedIn, I have a website. Yeah. Yeah, right, I'm gonna go get some lunch. Thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the future. If I can figure out how to close this. Right, yep, bye.